I'm Ron Bailey from Maysville, Kentucky. I was born in May 13th, 1953, and I've lived my entire life here so far. Uh,
Now, Ron, now you are known as much as a historian
well,
as anything, but I'd like to start off way back. Talk about your childhood, about growing up in Maysville.
First of all, I was always fascinated not only with history but memories. And I'm not, say, a historian per se, as I'm a collector of memories, and I love keeping memories alive. And that's one reason I started the Facebook page. But starting off at a young age, I was obsessed with the radio, listening to radio. And uh, anywhere I could listen to basketball games, baseball games, whatever, and I would take notes and I would try to get connection to our area. I don't care if it's an ex-baseball player, basketball, radio announcer, and Robert called WFTM was a big staple in my life growing up, and really appreciate what they did. But that being said, I would read every newspaper I could. I'd come here to the library, and that's when newspapers were on sticks. People don't realize what we're talking about. They big long poles. You get the Courier Journal, the Enquirer, of course the local Ledger, or the Independent. We had two newspapers here then, morning and afternoon, and I would just devour it. I mean, I just love it. But something I learned at an early age, an older gentleman told me one time, he said, don't be a cabbage head, all head, no ears. Listen. And I listened, and I would listen to older people talking. I love listening to them, and I would try to soak their knowledge in. And I've been blessed that I still have my memory, and I try to record it through either social media or just having gatherings.
Well, something that always interests me about you is that you will hear a story or you'll start a story and that brings to mind something else, and then down another rabbit hole it goes.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
you do it with so much joy.
Oh, I do. I mean, it's my passion. I mean, my wife, we've been married for 49 years. I have no children, but put it this way, this town is my children. I mean, I just love being around people and talking to them. And every day I learn something. I research every day, trying to find newspaper articles. But growing up, I had so many influential teachers, ministers, neighbors, and I would just sit and listen to their stories. And I try to capture them memories to pass on to this generation. But, you know, the thing about growing up in Maysville, I always say if you know two slogans, you need a rag called Clyde, or if you know what a green pickle is, you're from Maysville. Put it that way.
Green pickle was before my time.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, Maysville, looking back in history, they have been very, very lucky to have mass transit. I'm talking about transit in the city of Maysville. They had horse-drawn carriage streetcars, and then they came along electric streetcars, and it ran to December 31st, 1936. And then the Duke Company in Maysville took over the cars, and they had buses. And in the 50s, they came out with this bus, and it was green. And get a little backstory on this. All the children, students in Maysville City Schools, there was no school bus, no transit. If you went from east end of Maysville to high school or junior high, you had to ride the Green Pickle. And you put a token in and ring a bell when you got off at your house. But people would stand up, and that name was Green Pickle, legendary. And that's one of my favorite pictures I have of the Green Pickle. But we've been very, very blessed to have great transit here in Maysville. But
Now, before my time, the school, kind of dating myself here, you didn't have schools, you had wards.
wards, right.
So, what was that all about? I mean, what did that entail?
See, in east end of Maysville, we had Woodley where I went to school at.
Mm-hmm.
Woodley is now still an apartment building. Then we had Sixth Ward, which is no longer standing on Broadway Street. Then you had Forest Avenue, you had First District, and you had Center. Then up to 1957, you had Fee High School. And the high school merged in 1957. The grade schools merged in 1963. So we integrated schools in the grade school system in 1963. The Fee High School then became Maysville Junior High School. Up to that, Woodley went to 1 through 8, and but Sixth Ward went to 1 through 5. That's another thing. That's reason they didn't need no transit because everybody, the school was within walking distance.
Yeah.
But then when you went to high school, you either had to hitch a ride, walk, or the Green Pickle.
That's incredible. I like, of course, I grew up in the age of the elementary schools.
Right.
You had Orangeburg,
wow.
Washington, Minerva,
Fantastic.
and I miss those.
I do too.
I miss that educational format. I really miss it.
I mean, I miss not only as far as educational, you had the family atmosphere, you had big rivals in basketball. You had the Orangeburg Tigers, you had the Mays Lake Cardinals, the Lewisburg Bears, the Dover Eagles, Sardis Dragons. You know, went on and on. And it just every little ville had their school. Even Rectorville had a school.
Okay, I'm going to have to. I want to ask you about sports, but I want to ask about your Facebook page first. Which came first, your love of sports and collecting sports information and memorabilia, or the Facebook page come?
Oh, collecting sports member definitely come way first. Even back when I was a young age, I was saved old Sports Illustrated. People say, "I get ready to throw these old magazines away." I said, "Don't throw them away." And I just hoarded up sports collectors, and I would read them. And then when social media come along, I said, I'll put some of these pictures of Maysville, the Mason County area, on my personal Facebook page. Well, it got to be too big, so I started You Might Be from Maysville, Kentucky, if you remember. And now I have over 30,000. And God bless everybody that helps me out. Everybody helps me out. I appreciate it.
And they're pretty much from all over the world, aren't they?
All over the world. Yeah, I've received pictures that people say, "This is my great grandfather," and share memories, and just it means so much to me. I mean, one of my favorite pictures, you know, from WFTM days, of course, before your time, a gentleman named Vernon Reynolds. He was a blind gentleman. He would play on street corners and market every weekend with a tip box there, and you wouldn't believe how many people were influenced by him. Not only to learn how to play a guitar, but he was singing gospel music, and he was from Fleming County, and man, great memories. A lot of people remember the blind gentleman. They say, "What was the gentleman's name?" I said, "His name was Vernon Reynolds." You know, but
And a lot of interesting musicians from Fleming County, like Deb Heyer, the one-man band.
One-man band, very very interesting. Absolutely, he's a classic, no doubt about it.
You go to Aberdeen, go to Maloney's on a Sunday afternoon, and there he was.
The one-man band, absolutely. Yeah, it's fantastic. But you know, there's so many people in Maysville. But one question we've talked about before: if we had a Mount Rushmore in Maysville, it'd be hard to do. I mean,
yes.
I mean, Corley Jones and John K. Ferris, what they've done to music, done business, and of course Rosemary Clooney, and of course Simon Kent. You go all the way back to his days, but Clyde Barber. I mean, how can you leave Clyde Barber out? There's a self-made man, and amazing what he did in this town, and it still lives on what he does. I mean, absolutely. And,
yeah, that's what you were saying. Need a ride? Call Clyde. If you couldn't afford to make it to the grocery store, he would have it delivered for you.
Absolutely. I talked to his daughter one time about how that got started. His very first grocery store was on Market Street, and the front door would be crowded with people trying to get out, find their cars, whatever. He said, "I need to get away to get these people out the front of the door." So he came up with a van. And then in 1965, he built the class on the 4th Avenue, because he had one in Aberdeen, later one in Ripley, one in Bardstown, Kentucky. But what he did for Maysville, it's unbelievable.
Clyde Super Value Store, serving you better, saving you more.
He's got the commercial down perfect, Robert.
Absolutely.
Got it down perfect.
Absolutely. I mean, the things he did, like for the children, doing Saturday afternoon Disney movies at the Russell Theater, and
free bikes,
and everybody got a slice of cake.
And then you have they have a drawing, a boy and a girl will win a free bike every week in the summer. Then he had, but when the Mays swimming pool was closed down, he would take buses to Blue Licks, and you know, he had a class free day. I mean, things he would do for Maysville. I mean, and I still amazed how he pulled the expo off.
Yes.
I mean, how he got the big name acts come to the Tobacco Warehouse.
Yes.
And it's amazing how he did that. I mean, unbelievable. But it's amazing with Clyde. But there's so many people influenced me. But Corley Jones, I mean, you know yourself how she affected your life.
Yes.
But
and then so many different names, like the Brownings, the Finches, the Clarks. I mean, just
the Cochrans, you name it.
Yes, the Clarks. Just well, of course, Charles Clark went together with Mitch Finch,
right,
and formed WFTM.
Right, 1948.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
And of course, we always call Maysville the center of the universe.
Right.
What does that mean to you?
It means to me that if you dig it deep enough, there's always a connection somehow. I mean, unbelievable. You take a gentleman named William Halderman. William Halderman went to Maysville Academy with U.S. Grant and Bull Nelson. He left Mays when he was 16 years old, went to Louisville, and he worked for the Louisville Courier. Well, he started his own newspaper, and it became the Courier Journal. And it was still in existence until he sold out to Gannett newspapers back in the early 2000s. But not only that, he owned the Louisville Grays baseball team, Major League Baseball team. And some say nepotism, his son's on the team, but that's beside the point. Anyway, later on, he said, well, I'm going to buy some land in Florida. He bought this place, it's now Naples, Florida. If you go to Naples, Florida, there's a museum to him, a statue of William Hardeman, and he was born here in Maysville. I mean, and, you know, you got Margaret Queen Adams. Everybody said, who's that lady? She was the very first female sheriff's deputy in the United States. In 1902, she got deputized in Los Angeles, California, as the very first female sheriff deputy. Just think about that. She could arrest somebody, but she couldn't vote. I mean, you couldn't vote in 1908.
Wow.
But
that's incredible.
But you know, there's so many things. But Robert, like you come back to WFTM, man, I don't realize how much. I mean, you take the Twilight Lady. You grow up listening to Doc Wood and the Twilight Lady and Bud Boyd, and you carry that tradition on, and you and Danny Whittle and Doug McGill. I mean, they're staples in our lives. I mean, absolutely, no doubt about it. But,
and not a lot of cities our size are fortunate enough to have both the radio station and a newspaper.
Absolutely. Like I said, one time we had 2 newspapers, and I found some FCC. They applied for getting a TV station here at one time, and ended up getting WLAX in Lexington. Got the Mason didn't get it, but it's been great. I mean, not only for the news, sports, local events. I mean, it'd be there. I mean, absolutely.
And just so much talent.
So much talent.
I always think, you know, you're talking about Coralie Runyon and John K. Ferris. I mean, they're just, don't know. I always said there must be something in the water.
I agree. It has to be. I mean, how can you find 2 top-notch people like that? And Coralie's one got John K. Ferris come here because she was in Maysville at the time. Then you had Ellen Fowle, who was a great music director in elementary schools here in Maysville, and you look at all the superlatives, excellence. I mean, everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you do it year in, year out? And the choir going to Europe was fantastic. It's amazing. But,
definitely.
Yeah, but.
And of course, you got so many different people that have had such. Well, I'll tell you what my dream is. One time, I would love to do a documentary, and I want to name it "Let's Come Down to Brass Plaques."
Right.
Because you've got all of these different buildings in town.
Absolutely.
And names of people who helped make it happen.
Absolutely.
And I would love to do a chronicle of the people who, so they're not just names on a plaque.
Right.
Actually bring them to life.
I mean, you take the Cartmel family who's been there so long, David the Mayor, because his mother was, his grandmother. But then you look back at their family, the Heckingers. Heckingers started a dry goods store here, and that becomes the Horde family. The Horde family, because in the Cartmels. And then, of course, Dr. Cartmel's dad was a dentist here in Maysville. And the lineage is amazing. But,
Yes.
Look back to talking about the Cochrans. I mean, they had a water system here in Maysville. They owned the water system. I mean, unbelievable how they designed that. I mean, of course, January Wood with him, the Cochrans with them and the Dare family, but with the Brownies, Cochrans, like I said, Finches, just absolutely.
Yeah, and you always have. I'll always remember what City Manager Matt Wallingford says about Maysville. We've always enjoyed fighting above our weight class.
Amen to that. Yep, absolutely.
I mean,
Dr. Shars, Richie So, always said, Maysville's a small town, but they don't think they're small. He said, they do not think they're small. I have an Arkansas Courier Journal, he had that quote in there, and I love it. They don't think they're small.
I love that.
And one of the reasons I think Maysville has been so successful and sustained, we lost a lot of industry. I mean, tobacco was a big hit here. And of course, DP&L, Brownies, Cotton Mill, you could go on and on and on. But I think Maysville is too busy to hate. I mean, I think it's our secret. I mean, we love our history, we love our presence, we're looking for the future, and it's a bustling town. I mean, it's amazing how they self-sustained themselves. I mean, unbelievable.
It started kind of slow a little bit, but never stopped. And now you've got so many interesting destination businesses, especially in the historic district.
Absolutely. But getting back to those plaques, I agree 100%. one of my favorite, I've got some emails over the years. They said, "Where's Judge Roy Bean's museum? He's born in Mason County." I said, "We do not have a museum." They said, "Where's his plaque?" I said, "We don't even have a plaque." But Judge Roy Bean, here he was, the hanging judge. And of course, Hollywood glorified him. He only, one person that he put to death by hanging, but he was, he was stereotyped as a hanging judge. He was, I guess the West, but if you go to Texas, he has a huge museum out there. But he lived here till he's 16 years old. Him and his brother Joshua Bean, who became the very first mayor of San Diego.
Wow.
So they both left here when they were 16, but we have no plaque when he was born here. Dr. Daniel Drake, you go to UC Hospital. That's amazing.
Drake Medical.
And Lou Brownie done a great, if you get a chance, we got it on file here at the museum. He done a great seminar on Dr. Daniel Drake and how he connection to Maysville and how he formed everything UC Medical College. And there's another underrated for Daniel Drake, what he done in Mason County. Let's go on. Like you said, it's a rabbit hole, Robert.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, every time you mention somebody who's done, like you said, the paper
Right.
or the radio station, but then you've got the infrastructure, the underpinnings
Right.
that makes Maysville what it is.
I agree.
And you've got a lot of people. I know anytime that I do any interview, when I'm talking about Maysville, I always make sure to throw ample praise at Maysville Works.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Because if it was not for that incredible bunch of people.
absolutely. I mean, go back to mid-60s, 66 when the court days started. Everybody said, bring court days back. When you have tens of thousands of people coming to Maysville, trash everywhere, and the city works, next day you didn't know what happened. You might have a few dogs running around that nobody bought, but besides that. but I mean, going to court days, that was a fantastic thing. But, it was the crowd that came here to Maysville, unbelievable. And talking about characters, one of my favorite characters is Bobby Shepard. Bobby Shepard, he's a gentleman. He never hurt anybody, and he's just a town fixture. I mean,
Yeah.
he'd get up at court day and do the husband calling contest and that shrill voice. I mean, I can still hear it today, but absolutely.
He would stop into the radio station, just walk right into the studio and start playing the piano.
Right. Very, very talented. And he never harmed nobody, just a great, great character.
And heard that he could clean
Absolutely.
the house better
Immaculate.
than anybody,
Immaculate.
as long as you don't mind your refrigerator being raided.
Yeah, exactly. But I put parentheses a character, but he was a great staple of our life growing up. I mean, thinking about it.
Absolutely.
Like you said, that's the underbelly. You might see the big names up top, but people like that make his community.
Now, is it true that he lived in one of the holes in the flood wall?
Yeah, before he went to the nursing home, that's where he lived at. Before he went to the nursing home. He went to the nursing home in Bratton County, Chatham, where he passed away at. But he did. But what a character. Like I said, we talk about Vernon Reynolds, the blind gentleman that played on the street corner. We had a gentleman named Buster Barrows. Mr. Barrows owned a men's shop here in Maysville next to Russell Theater. He would walk the bridge from Aberdeen every day to work. And I always said, this guy's, he could afford a car, but that's what he do, would walk. And then Miles Brown. If anybody knew Miles Brown, how eccentric he was, I mean, what a great, not only a great jeweler and a good businessman, but he would walk around town with an ascot. Nobody in Maysville wore an ascot, but he did. And he had a diamond-studded walking cane. I mean, he's just eccentric, but everybody knew Miles Brown. I mean, absolutely.
And then, of course, a way that a lot of the people got or expressed themselves was through the Maysville Players.
Absolutely. I mean, you go back there. I got playbills, Will Gear, of Walton family, fame. Back in the 20s, he was here playing. Like I mentioned, Eddie Albert played here, But the Maysville Players, Denny Keller, there's somebody, what he did is amazing, amazing. And now I'm glad to see Maysville Players. I mean, it's booming now.
Yes.
It's booming. I mean, attendance is all-time high. They got some great, but Maysville Players, it's fantastic. I mean, I got some old pictures of Percy Browning and Jim McDaniels, and of course, they're all people like that. They're great, great people like that. But Denny Keller was unreplaceable.
Oh my gosh. One spot on Mount Rushmore for Maysville,
Oh, yeah.
I think, has to be Denny
I
Keller.
mean, he's so talented. And
Yes.
not only Maysville Player, but connections. I mean, what he did in the beauty contest, he had connections all over the United States.
Yes, Miss America pageant.
Miss America, Miss USA. Angela Hines moved here to Maysville in 1991. She won the Expo. Well, Denny Keller took her under her wing. She finished third in Miss USA contest. A lot of people don't realize that. Heather won Miss America, but she finished third in Miss USA.
And his family is just, I always call them larger than life.
I agree. I agree. Always.
I mean, they're just so full of life and joy.
Never a bad day.
I grew up with Caroline, and
Yeah.
I cherish every moment.
Oh yeah. And what she does this day is amazing. Main Street.
Yes.
Amazing. Like you said, they got so many festivals going on. Everything or something every weekend. Sometimes there are too many things going on. But absolutely amazing.
And so many things to promote.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't put a plug in for the museum here, but if you
Please
have not,
do.
if you not have been to the museum, you don't really know what you're missing. And this really, I'm not saying gets them a crawl, but people who live in Maysville say, I've never been here. I lived my whole life. I said, why don't you come to the museum? I mean, it's not only the exhibits, but their research library.
Yes.
Kay Chambliss, you know it. Myra Hardy, what they do, Candy Spangler, and what you're doing with these oral history, which should have been done a long time ago,
And people come all across the nation
around the world.
for the
Miniatures.
for the miniatures and for the research library.
Research, oh yes, research is big.
The miniatures, the largest private collection of 12th scale miniatures in the world.
Absolutely. You know, when I give a tour on the boats when they come in on the bus, I try to explain to them. I said, we're getting ready to go to the miniatures. Some say, doll houses. But when they come back out, they said, we didn't have enough time in there. We could spend 3 hours in there. I mean, everything's a detail. And again, hats off to Kay and you know,
And it's a constantly rotating exhibit.
And Christmas time is outstanding. But
Yeah.
But you know, the museum is I'm not saying it's a hidden feature in Mason County, but a lot of Mason Countyans do not take advantage of it.
That is true.
Absolutely. And now we're going to the next level. Not only like our Tuesday we have on this, but we're going trivia on Thursday nights, and we learn a lot of local history. But Robert, again, I can't believe, thank you enough for what you've done. Amazing. And your columns are fantastic. But
I love this town. When I was 18, I was thinking, you know, like every other
yeah,
graduated senior, get the heck out of Dodge.
right.
But then I found a job in a home at WFTM
Right.
and started doing, working with Gene Calvert,
Right.
Lou Kilgus,
Right.
and I can't imagine not being anywhere else.
Absolutely. I mean, the memories, talking about Kilgers. Going to Kilgers in high school, you know, with a marlin on the wall, the elk head, I mean, the moose head on the wall, and just stuff like in the lemon drops that Kilgers were killed for. Of course, the white light's legendary. I mean, white light hamburgers in the corner with the Brammers cooking white lights, and fantastic.
And everybody keeps saying, we've got white light hamburgers. Like, no, you
they're
don't.
not saying. The thing about the mornings, I ride the green pickle to school, and I catch the first green pickle, and I get there a little early. Well, I would go to the white light, and they had grilled honey buns in the same grease they had the white light hamburger, and they were good.
Oh gosh, yeah, that plate was seasoned perfectly.
Perfect. I don't know how they did it, but they can't replicate it. They tried, but they can't. But anyway, again, what Jerry Lundgren is doing in town too is amazing.
Yes.
And I want to thank what he's doing, because I grew up in East End of Maysville, and it's sad to see the back of our house, but they're no longer needed. They're not there, and they're fire hazards.
And that's another thing we're
Yeah.
talking about, underpinnings and stuff. I wish we didn't need his services,
I agree.
but his services are invaluable. EDS, Emergency Disaster Services, and he has warehouses full of response equipment that as soon, like when when Helene
Right.
hit down south,
Right.
Right there.
Right there.
right there.
You see truck after truck coming, you know, and what he does, and the power companies, people don't realize when they're there, they got to have a place to stay, because they're there for days. You got the power company comes in first, turn the power off, then you got the pole, then they come back again, so they got to have a place to stay. But Jerry, what an entrepreneur. I mean,
Yes.
his dad had a delicatessen there at the end of the bridge, Gene Delicatessen. And when I was a kid, I used to go in there all the time. Then Jerry, people don't realize, he bought Lock 33 Dam. He was 19 years old. He bought it. And when Lock 33 Dam, which us older people remember, there used to be a dam there when they tore it down in 1963, but he bought the property. And,
Wow.
But he keeps Maysville going. He loves Maysville too. I mean, absolutely. But
Just doesn't know the word failure. Not in his vocabulary.
No. Keep on going. But I'll tell you what, history of Maysville, I mean, you can go on and on, people's connection. Casey Stengel started his baseball career here. A gentleman named Barry McCormick. People say, who in the world is Barry McCormick? Well, he's in the baseball records twice. Once as a player, he's the last player to bat 8 times in a 9-inning game. As an umpire, He's behind the plate for the longest baseball game in history, 23 innings, and he called because of darkness. Now, some of the baseball historians said he got hungry and said, "I'm going home." But anyway, he's in the record book too, as an umpire and a player. But,
And of course, I also remember reading Danny Weddle's book, How We Play the Game,
Right.
still available at
Right.
fine bookstores everywhere, how the Maysville baseball team played and defeated the Cincinnati Reds.
Absolutely. They played at Bryan Field, where Deerfield Village is located today. The very first baseball field where Casey Stengel played in 1910 was there was Seddon Methodist Church. Is there on Central Methodist Church, on 2nd Street. But yeah, it's so much history. But Bryan Field is where the baseball, Maysville played football up there to 1942 when they discontinued football and started back in 1966. But we had Walter Hafer, pro boxer from Maysville, fought Ezra Charles in championship. But there's so many connections to this town. I mean, you start digging, like I said, it's a rabbit hole.
And we've got so many sports legends
Oh,
from this area.
Unbelievable. I mean, legends go on and on. A lot of people, one of my favorite stories, everybody talking about baseball. We won the 1958 state baseball championship. Maysville did in 1958. Cloverleaf Dairy won the National Knot-Hole Championship in 1966. Of course, the Maysville girls basketball team won 1926, and they played on the 3rd floor of the Maysville High School. That's where the gym was, or the 3rd floor.
Which you wouldn't think, given
wouldn't
the
think.
slope
The slope
of that
absolutely.
roof.
They were so successful, they built the gym in 1930. Not because of the boys, because of the girls. The boys finished runner-up in 1935, won the state championship in 47, runner-up in 48, and then of course Mason County won in 2003, 2008. Mason County boys golf team, 1967 state champs. But what I'm getting at, we had 3 state marble championships. Marbles was a huge sport here in the 40s and 50s. 2 state tournaments were held here in Maysville. We had one gentleman named Dwight Murphy won the National Marble Championship in Seattle
Wow.
in 1959. Now you figure marbles, people might say, what is marbles? But it got to the point when I was going to school, if you played marbles, they finally had to stop it. The guy would bring the extra bag and he'd take everybody's marbles. And the principal said, he won them legit, but the game was if you knock him out of the circle, if you're playing keepers, you get the marbles.
Yeah.
This guy had stacks of marbles. So,
Wow.
But marbles was a huge sport here. Absolutely.
That's incredible.
And right now, where we're sitting in right now at the museum, Lucille Marquis Cancer Center, her dad had a Parker livery stable right here where we're sitting at. She was born in Tollsboro. Her dad had a livery stable here in Maysville. She married Gene Wright, then Mr. Admiral Marquis. They own Calumet Farms in Lexington, one of the most historic and beautiful farms in the state of Kentucky. If you come to the airport, you'll see it. But her dad's livery stable right here on Sutton Street, where it was at.
When you see the Saudis flying into town,
Absolutely.
that's
It's a good
usually
sign.
where they're going.
You know where they're going. Absolutely. They're not going to Costco or Sam's Club. That's for sure.
Well, they do have a new Buc-ee's up on Richmond.
That's true. Everybody goes to Buc-ee's. Yeah, absolutely. But that's another thing. Service station. I mean, every corner has a service
Oh,
station.
yeah.
I mean, it was huge. I mean,
And service station was
full service.
Yes, they
Check
clean
the oil, check the air, and if you get 8 gallons, you get some free glasses.
and clean the windshields and
right.
everything.
Absolutely.
And they always had some kind of collection or promotion going on. I remember Gerald's
Right.
gas station, his Texaco
Right.
had the Texaco trucks,
Right.
big, back when toys were made to last.
Right.
And I spent all my time riding, using it like a
Yep.
sled.
Oh yeah, they had stuff like I said, 8 gallons or more, you either get free towels or a set of drinking glasses, and plus TV stamps.
Well, and that's something that Clyde did
Yeah,
too. He
absolutely.
did with
You had a book to
engraved,
fill up.
etched glasses, and you
Right.
could get your whole service set.
Absolutely, and they have each one be featured each week. It might be
Yeah.
a dinner plate, might be side dishes, but things like that are memories and stuff.
Yeah, we got them.
We got
Mom collected them all.
That's absolutely. I mean, and TV stamps. A gentleman the other day, even in his 40s, said, "What's a TV stamp?" I said, "Well, we had wherever you went, you get either them or green stamps, and you have a book, fill them up. They had a place out there in the Bluegrass Shopping Center. You could redeem them for binoculars or whatever you want. You have a book, but
And then you had the, oh gosh, what was the sewing machine shop down here that
Singers,
did
singers.
books as well? Yeah.
Then not only talking about but downtown Maysville, the place was the dime store in the corner. That was the iconic place in Maysville. Everybody went there on weekends. You know yourself, Robbie, walk in and smell fresh cashews, candy. It was a delight.
Yes.
Go downstairs, you had all the model cars. And at Easter time, you could buy colored chickens. They'd be green, purple, green, whatever color you want. And they would paint them. But now PETA wouldn't, I don't like, but anyway, I would buy chickens. But
Oh, that's where I got my Star Wars toys, model kits and
yes,
stuff.
yes.
Absolutely.
Now, before you go to town, there was a toy store on Southern Street called Bowder's Toy Store. And that was the go-to place for model cars and balsam wood planes. And it's really it's right there on the corner now. It's tore down. That parking lot, but it's called Bowder's Toy Shop.
And that was before Moore's?
Yes, before Moore's.
Okay.
Moore's on the corner. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we had Moore's. Then we had Leo's. Leo became Checkers later on, right next to Maysville Gym.
Wow. I got my $6 Million Man.
Yeah.
My Lee Majors Bionic Man action figure.
Right.
Not a doll if you're a guy. Action
Figure, right.
action figure. Got it
Absolutely.
for $8 at Moore's Toy Store.
Amazing.
Still got him.
Amazing. But, you know, little tidbits like I'll dig up one day in 1956. Dot Wood, we talking about Dot Wood. Her daughter Ellie Wood was the very first Wonder Woman and a pilot. Of course, then she waited. You know, anyway.
I've seen pictures of
Yeah,
it.
picture. Anyway, make a long story short, she was a student at Northwestern University. Well, she brought home her date. Her date was Warren Beatty, and Warren Beatty spent the weekend here in Maysville. You know? I mean, here was, Shirley MacLaine's brother, Warren Beatty, a star, but there's always a connection somewhere. Absolutely,
Wow.
always a connection, but
Always back to Maysville.
always back to Maysville, absolutely. But I tell you what, I could talk on and on, but I could do a series of these, and we can just talk about different subjects. I mean,
Well, if you're amenable to it, I would love to make a series of them with you.
I love to do it because I wish I had Eddie Rubenacher, more and more Dr. Sharda, which had more and more him speaking, and God rest his soul. But Eddie Rubenacher in the nursing home, I'll sit there and talk to him, and he would tell me so many things. I write it down, but Larney Caproni, people like that, Martha Comer. And Martha Comer, people don't realize she was a publisher in the man's world. I mean, I got a picture. She's in the White House with John F. Kennedy with publishers all across the United States. And the headline said newspaper men. And she was the only lady in the picture. I mean,
Wow.
what Martha Comer did in this town, I mean, she definitely had her own opinion, but she was a good newspaper lady. Great newspaper lady. In the Matthews family of Public Ledger. I mean, we had blessed with great journalism here. And
Mary Margaret.
Mary Martin Meadows, I mean, it went on and on. And
Yeah.
Bob Hendrickson done the newspaper. And fantastic.
Yeah, I would read his version of the phone book. He is such a great writer.
That's like Nick Clooney. When Nick Clooney used to do his columns, he done a column on Bush's Pool Hall. Bush Craycraft was the who's who of you played pool on Market Street in Maysville. You went to Bush's Pool Hall. No ladies allowed. All the men go in there and play pool. But he had bought the table. Nick Clooney wrote an article about that, which is a fantastic article about the history of Bush's Pool Hall.
It's the memories that we need
Yeah, we
to
do.
preserve.
And I want to thank you for doing this because, I mean, I'm glad to do it as long as I still got my mind.
Well, that's good because I'm planning on hitting you up for more.
We love to do it, and like I say, and we have our little meetings here every Tuesday. Like it's a giant rabbit hole, where we're going down to. But anyway, history maze on. I mean, something you can't read in a history book.
Yeah.
You're not going to find Green Pickle. You're not going to find You Need a Ride called Clyde. You're not going to find Riverside Drive-In, the Park Drive-In.
And you'll see pictures of the 37 flood and stuff like that,
Right.
but without the context.
Without the context, absolutely. I mean, Russell Theater, when Tom Mix came here, and like the old Washington Theater, which was the Opera Theater before the Maysville Players took it back over, we had two theaters in town when I grew up. At the Opera Theater, they were showing mostly B movies, westerns, and all kinds of. I mean, Russell Theater, that's a staple. Growing
Oh,
up.
yeah.
My gosh.
And still one of the
Still one.
last atmospheric
Yeah,
theaters available.
Walking there is
around.
just magical. Looking up the stairs, and of course, my favorite time. Look, Clyde's had his clock in the corner over
Yes.
there. His lighted clock. You knew what time it was exactly.
It's okay, 10 minutes until In Search of Noah's Ark comes on.
Absolutely. And back in the days, we had a gentleman, come on his flashlight and check all of them. It was first class. First class.
Yeah, that was back when they weren't afraid to have biblical
I agree.
movies.
I agree.
I remember John Huston playing Noah.
And
And he hits a slick spot. He was, I guess, putting pitch on the ark. Ends up sliding all
Oh,
the way down
yeah.
the top of the ark with his bucket sliding behind him.
Now, in 180 from that, in 1968, they got rated for carnal knowledge. They showed a movie,
Oh, wow.
and it wasn't that back then, and somehow they stopped it. And to this day, it's somewhere in the courthouse still here. The real is. They confiscated the carnal knowledge in 1968.
Wow.
They stopped the movie.
I'm going to look at it.
Yeah, I got some newspaper articles when they stopped it. Anyway, Russell Theater was such, like I said, Clyde shows on weekdays, weekends.
Yeah.
Maysville is a great place to grow up, and I'm glad that people realize how many memories we have here. But please, share any memories you got.
And have remembered it before everything's gotten torn down.
Absolutely, absolutely. Urban renewal, it broke my heart to see all the front street go down. But you look at, French Quarter would not be here. We had the parking lot. Back then we had parking meters, and you had to round around trying to find a parking spot downtown Maysville. On Saturdays and Fridays, you couldn't find a parking spot.
Yeah.
And of course, Hazelwood Hospital, forget trying to find a parking spot up there.
Yeah.
I mean, and walking up the hills is your own stress test. If you can make it up the steps from Market Street to Hazelwood, you're going to survive. You're all right. But things stuck in my memory. I remember going to Hazelwood Hospital, and there was a cigarette machine. I mean, you had a cigarette machine.
Of course.
And most doctors had a cigarette hanging around their mouth, examining you, Yeah.
As you do, yes.
As you do. Yeah. But, again, Robert,
Incredible.
I like to do a series if we can do these videos.
I am at your disposal.
And if we have any question you might want to ask, if we don't find an answer, well, we'll find one.
Now, that would be something good for your group.
Yes.
Have them just jot it down on a
I
piece
agree.
of paper
I agree.
and
Let's
see if
have a
we can.
question, right? Absolutely.
Oh, I love that idea.
But you know how many people call me that say, like I said before, they say, "Who's that blind gentleman? What's his name?" I would tell them, and different things would happen. When did the Texaco station explode? 1956 by Wall Park. All the tanks exploded. Little stuff like that, But
Or when the Powder magazine blew up
Blew
on
up.
Old 68 and
68
put a big
dent,
dent
Presbyterian
in the church.
and put stones went all the way to Aberdeen. That's how
Wow.
powerful they were. And then, people talk about different things in Maysville, but earthquake. Everybody got an earthquake story. July.
Except
1980.
for me.
You don't remember it.
I was in Gallipolis.
So you missed
I
it.
missed
Messed
it.
it up.
I miss all the fun stuff.
So you not get the iconic T-shirt. I
No.
survived.
I miss all the fun stuff.
My man, again, what you wrote an article a few weeks ago about Jody Sherman's store. Not only little town had a store, but every corner in Maysville had a little corner
Yes.
grocery. Ever had a corner grocery. And again, that's why I wish people bring stories about. Going in and buying. Every corner grocery would have a big thing of peas. Well, what they're for? We're pea shooters. Kids shoot pea shooters.
But of course.
That's what they would use. Slingshots, stuff like that.
See, I was going to guess that you had to guess the amount
Yeah.
of peas in there and
Yeah.
you get a
Right
prize.
now you just get a sack full of peas for your pea shooter. That's what all the pea shooter was straw. Just simple as
Wow.
that.
Well, Ron, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you,
know
sir.
you've got so much else to do. I look forward to sitting down
Thank you,
again
Robert.
with you
You know how
real
much it
soon.
means. You know how much it means to me. It means to the community. We got to get this memories down, and we got. That'd be a great question. If people got any questions, let us know. Anything we want to talk about.
I know need to sit down with. Oh wow, there's so many people.
Bill Marshall. We need to talk to him about the tobacco market because he works along the Parker Tobacco Company. He was big in in agriculture, growing in high school, and there's so many people we need to talk to. But
Yeah,
as I say, before it's too late. And like when you wrote about Dr. Shire, people like that you think is going to be here forever.
that's it.
Denny Keller and them, you say, well, they're always going to be around. But
That-
that's part of life. We all got an expiration date. We don't know what it is.
Yeah,
It's like the milk. We got an expiration date.
you
We don't
just
know
take for granted that they're going to be there forever.
when. Absolutely. But this endeavor that we're doing here at the museum is going to be great. Somebody in 2050 can look at it and say, well, that's what it was. Absolutely. But again, thank you, Robert. Appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you,
Thank
and
you.
again, looking forward to talking to you a whole
Hey,
lot more.
We can do it all day. We can talk.
And we can.
Yeah, we can. We can.